Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I wanted to share my thoughts on the recent Final Fantasy Origin demo on the PlayStation 5. It was broken for 2 days, but now we can experience all of the chaos until June 24th. I beat the demo on hard mode, and I definitely want to talk about it. So first off, the game really feels like it wants to be accessible regardless of whether or not you usually play this style of game. While I played through on hard mode, which pretty accurately represents the trials, tribulations, and of course, frustrations reminiscent of games like Nioh or Sekiro or any of the Soulsborns, the easier difficulties definitely lent themselves to being able to just enjoy the game at any skill level, something I think is really important for the Final Fantasy franchise as a whole. Normal is a significant drop down in difficulty, and easy takes it down even further. There's even an easy casual mode, which removes death penalties, makes all attacks blockable, and a few other things. So yeah, if you're usually intimidated by the perceived genre of super difficult action RPGs that this game definitely seems to be modeled after, they still made sure that you can enjoy this just as a Final Fantasy fan through and through, regardless of your skill level. I then noticed the graphics. It's okay for the PlayStation 5, but being it's an early demo / alpha, it really does seem unfinished. The castle, while atmospheric and dark and damp, almost comes off as muddy with an overabundance of blurry effects. Team Ninja though has a good track record with improvements from early demos and alphas to full releases, so I'm hoping to see some graphical uptick in the later versions. The story of the demo is also as bare bones as possible. Pretty much the demo is the trailer in terms of story, down to every last chaos. This has fueled some strong speculation, some about Jack becoming Garland by the end of the game to kick off the events of Final Fantasy I, some of how the heroes are isekai'd into this world, hence the name and moniker of Stranger. We get no closer to figuring any of these out in the demo, so that just leaves gameplay. Oh man, they spent way too much time showing off things like QTEs in the trailer. We have a relatively unique take on a more Nioh-like game with several Final Fantasy elements within. The overall gameplay is reminiscent of most third-person action games. You have basic attacks, special attacks, a block, a parry, a dodge, healing items, and some special combos you can pull off. The combos do get extensive with forward and back movement alterations, cancellations of animations, the ability to modify finishers based on what attack you've just used. The list goes on and on. The parry, called the Soul Shield, not only blocks attacks to raise MP and decrease the enemy's break gauge, which I'll talk about in a minute, but even absorbs certain attacks which you can then re-unleash right back at your opponents. This was one of my favorite features, as it adds a ton of versatility to handling even the most difficult situations. And as I just briefly mentioned, the break gauge, that's the little stamina bar looking thing that's under the opponent health bar, and you have one of these too. Basically, when it is reduced to 0, you or the opponent will become staggered and you will take increased damage or just be unavailable to attack for a few seconds. On enemies, you can actually execute a finisher when this time comes, which will allow you to recharge some MP and instantly kill the opponent, also sending out a shockwave to nearby opponents. Even one break, if you've got a bunch of enemies broken in a group, one break would be enough to just destroy all of them instantly. This is what most of the QTEs were in the trailer, and you will be using these attacks frequently. However, getting to the point with which you can use one is largely how the flow of combat goes. You're going to be wanting to abuse weaknesses or keep up the offense instead of playing it slow and playing it back a bit, because that's going to let them recharge that gauge. It definitely makes for a faster paced, hyper-aggressive gameplay for those who are more comfortable or experienced. If not, take it slower, don't worry about the gauge, and you still will be able to kill them by whittling down their HP. Now, while you fight, you gain MP, which can be used to cast spells or execute powerful special attacks. You can learn and equip multiple special attacks that change depending on what job you have equipped. Oh yeah, this game has a job system, another detail they just didn't talk about at all during the announcement. By defeating enemies, you gain job levels, which allow you to unlock skills within that job skill tree. They even unlock advanced jobs with more powerful skills and utilities. You can have up to 2 jobs equipped at once and can swap between them with a simple press of a button. You can even do special cancels where after using a skill, you can press the swap button to do a faster change and then continue the combo as your other equipped job. They even have their own separate gear sets saved that will swap when you actually swap the job. This leaves a lot of room open for player skill expression or even just job preference. Want to have the versatility of 2 jobs? Bring 2 jobs you really like. Do you want to just bump your stats a ton and then just really focus on playing one job, bring a job you want to use, and then a job that just has the stat boosts you want, because those will even be shared across your equipped jobs. You can also unlock command abilities by leveling up different jobs. These can be equipped on any job you have as long as you've unlocked them, effectively giving you even more combat options. You can bring the Mighty Strikes buff for your Dragoon to boost your attacks, or perhaps you can bring Reinforce to prevent staggers while you're casting spells on Black Mage. There's also the Lightbringer mode, which makes you unbreakable and raises your break damage and overall damage against opponents. I wasn't great at implementing this into my usual gameplay because it's just not my style, but when I did, oh boy, it made a difference. There are also a ton of gear options with lots of bonus stats. Some items even have affinity with specific jobs, offering bonus stats or experience points when wearing them. This also changes your appearance, so I can't wait to see the game's full breadth of options to make Jack look a little less hot topic and a little cooler in combat. Honestly, my favorite thing was just how I was able to fight the enemies and the number of different ways I could approach any situation. For example, goblins were throwing stones at me, but I was having this issue with a guard that came up a little bit later. So I managed to steal some stones and then bring them into that fight, instantly giving me an edge by throwing a bunch of stones at him to do a ton of break damage and stagger him so he wouldn't attack me. Later on, I was fighting bombs, and while I could fight them normally, I noticed that if I hit them with fire 3 times, they would just explode and I win. So, what would I do? They shoot fire at me, I soul shield it, I shoot the fireballs back at them, they explode, rinse, and repeat. There was a room with a ton of wolves, and while I could go down and maybe just group them up and fight them with my spells, there was a bomb that was up top, and I noticed that when I knocked it off a ledge, it fell into the group of wolves, not only staggering them and breaking them, but burning them over time because it would light the foliage on fire. Then, there was the ability to group them up with Aroga after that and unleash a follow-up spell or attack. Then I was able to use spells to disarm the demo's final boss, his various elemental swords. Use Ice Sword, I'll hit it with fire. Use a Fire Sword, I'll hit it with water. You just get a sense that the game wants to cater to whatever you want to do, whether you're openly exploring to look for advantages from high points or the enemies like the bomb I was able to drop on their head, or if you just want to go face first into your opponent. There's so many different ways to go into every situation, and that's only going to expand as we get more jobs in the full game, as well as more abilities, and see more environments and more of everything. I just want more. Oh, and not to mention the combat music. Some of the music is remixed Final Fantasy 1 music. There's also some original scores with some pretty fast-paced beats. It's just a pleasant experience altogether, and I really hope Team Ninja continues to improve from this demo. If you have a PlayStation 5, definitely give it a download and try it out before June 24th when it goes offline. If you don't have a PS5, I'll be uploading some more gameplay for you to check out, and at least the game's full release is not PlayStation 5 exclusive. Or, you know, just get a PS5, smiley face. Oh, and I actually forgot to write about this in my script for this altogether, but the AI allies in the demo are utterly useless. Sometimes they have like strings of super great combos that I'm like, oh my goodness, thank God they were attacking. But most of the time they just either get beat up and die or don't do anything at all and stand around. So I don't know if those are going to be that way when the game fully releases. I don't know if they're just placeholders because maybe there'll be some co-op experiences like other Soulsborns have. I don't know, but they suck here. That's it. Now, I'd love to keep nerding out about the game, but I think I've made my point. So with that, thank you for watching. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and be on the lookout for more videos on Final Fantasy Origin. Trust me, with the number of videos I'm going to be posting, it's going to be absolute chaos. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, take care.